And we're live on Facebook, and this session is about the memory supercharger paraliminal. So let's talk about memory for a moment, all right? There are a couple of important facts that you need to understand about it. This paraliminal puts you squarely in charge of how your internal memory works. First of all, please understand, there is no such thing as a perfect memory. Those people who seem to be able to have a perfect memory of everything, they're not necessarily very balanced individuals because they also can't forget any single fact that they ever have. So we have natural mechanisms to be able to focus the mind, pay attention to what's important, and be able to retrieve it as necessary. But other than that, really, there isn't any perfect memory. There is a major problem when we have some sort of deficit of memory. Either a memory is slow in coming, whatever it might be. What happens for us is we immediately start putting negative suggestions on ourselves. For example, oh, I'm so terrible at remembering names. Oh, you can tell me your name. I'm never going to be able to remember it. Oh, I'm so awful. Oh, I'm having a senior moment. Well, hold on. What does that mean when people make a joke, I'm having a senior moment? Essentially what they're saying is, my memory is going to decline over time, and I'm experiencing that now. It's only going to get worse. That's my excuse. I'm not going to be able to remember things the way I used to. Stop it. That's not true. Let's understand how memory actually works. We have an internal neural net, and that neural net captures important information. What's not important goes through the net, but what's important gets tied in to that net, and if it's something valuable to you and you need to be able to recall it at a later time, you will build a new thread attaching it, a new neurological thread attaching it to the pre-existing neural network. I hope that makes sense, but it's a neural net. So you're not going to be able to remember something that has no relevance to you. It's just going to pass through like water through a sieve. The example I often use when I'm teaching memory programs is that there's a town in Mexico, and it's named with the native language of Nahuatl. And the name of the town is Parangaricutirimícuaro. Well, first time you hear that, you're not going to be able to remember it. Even if I tell it to you 10 times, you're still not going to be able to reproduce it. Even Spanish speakers have a very difficult time with it. And the reason that's the case is that it doesn't make any sense. There isn't anything anywhere near it in our pre-existing neural net, so it doesn't stick. We have to build or construct a temporary thread and then work that repeatedly over some time in order to make a firm connection. So you have to be able to call on it again. So think about memory as construction and reconstruction. You construct a memory and then you reconstruct it. And that's what's really important to get about the human brain. There isn't some little hard drive somewhere that you're writing these things to, and all you have to do is access that hard drive and it comes back. No. The way the memory works is you're literally reconstructing an original construction. Every time you remember something, you're reconstructing an original construction. And there's areas in the brain called convergence zones where little random bits of information from all over converge in order to reconstruct that memory. It's also called neural Darwinism, and it's the basis for how the internet works. There isn't one storage bin for all the data on the internet. The idea is that it's actually converging as it's required by your calling on it. So that allows you to recall what you have called upon previously. Now, one of the things that's an absolute killer to memory is stress. Cognitive stress is going to affect your attention, your perception, your thinking, your decision making, your ability to respond, and yes, your memory. So what happens when you're in a situation, you see somebody you know, and you can't remember their names? Immediately we begin, I can't remember their name. I can't remember their name. I can't remember the. Now, as soon as you say I can't, guess what the brain does? Okay, you can't. I'm done. But if you say, I know this person. I was with them a week ago. How strange that it's not coming up immediately. I know this person. It will come to me. Take the stress out. Now, think about it. When do you usually remember somebody's name when you can't remember it at the time? When you're driving away. It's no longer important. And there's no stress. And all of a sudden, boom, there it is. So here's the secret that the memory supercharger Paraliminal gets at. It's how you relate to your mind, how you relate to its amazing memory capabilities. It's very similar to a bank. Remember in the olden days when you used to have to withdraw money from a bank? You'd go in, you fill out a little withdrawal slip, you hand it to the teller, they look up your account, they pull the money out, and they hand it to you. That's how it used to work. This is before ATMs. If you've lived long enough to know what I'm talking about, you get it. The idea is that you make a request of the bank, and the bank goes about gathering all the information in this convergence zone and then gives it to you. I like to use the analogy is that it washes up on the sands of your conscious awareness. So we've got this conscious awareness and we've got this vast non-conscious mind. As Vera Birkenbiel, who did the Memory Optimizer course with me, described it, we've got one little flashlight that shines a beam of about 12, 15 inches in a circle, and we've got an area 11 miles in diameter that we're searching for. But as soon as you turn on that flashlight and request the information, like little bugs to the light, moths to the light, it starts gathering what it is you need to be able to have it accessible to you. And that's the key. Make a request, let it go. So when I teach students, and this is a spectacular paraliminal to use if you need to be able to do well on a test. Basically what you do is you go into the test, you read all the questions and the answers. And, if it's multiple choice, I'm using as an example, you read all the questions, all the answers. Don't try to answer any of them. Now you go back to the first one, read it, read the answers, and you're going to get something like a traffic light, right? It's going to be green, yellow, or red. And if it's red, it's not coming. Don't worry about it. Go on to the next one. What's happened is you've requested the information. Your mind's looking for it. It's not immediately accessible at this moment. That's okay. You get a green light on the next one. You know the answer. Write it down. Get a yellow light on the next one. You might know it. You might try it. If you're not absolutely sure, you can pass on it. And then you come back after answering all of them. You go back to those red lights and you ask the question again of your mind. And what's going to happen is because you have queued up and brought so much of what you've studied to the surface, you've reactivated those neural pathways to the neural net in the areas of memory that you want. So you passed on question 1, but question 23 already opened the file. You had an answer for it. So when you come back to number 1, there it is. It's right there for you. Most of the times when you and I went to school, probably what we did is when we read a question we didn't know, we freaked out and thought, oh my goodness, I didn't study this part. I'm going to fail this test. It's going to be awful. And our heart starts pumping. What's happening? We're creating cognitive stress. And what does cognitive stress do? It shuts down the teller cage at the bank. Basically, it doesn't matter how badly you want it. The more pressure you put, the further away it seems to get. It's called the law of reverse effect. It's like putting the car in the wrong gear. It's just not going to be able to function as effectively as it can. This is the beauty of the memory supercharger paraliminal, is it gives you a different relationship with this vast non-conscious database. I'm referring to the inner mind. It's like you're developing this lovely working relationship. Instead of punishing yourself when something doesn't come as immediately as you want, you let it go. Give yourself a request, you let it come. And that's a very important concept. This is why the memory supercharger is one of the first paraliminals I ever did. It actually occurred as a result of some hypnosis work I did many years earlier. I was living just off campus at the University of Minnesota. I was doing hypnosis sessions in my apartment, and one of the persons I worked with was a student at the university, and he was failing a 4th level calculus course. I had taken 3 semesters of IT calculus, so I could relate to it. He was in 4th quarter or 4th semester, 4th level, and he said, no matter how hard I study, it's so weird. I go in and I take a quiz at the end of the week, and I fail the quiz. I either get a D or I fail. And this has happened through the entire semester. And I said to him, now, you got to promise me you've done the work. You do have the information. You know the information. Yes, he said, I've done all the homework. I just don't get it. I said, well, how long before the final? He said, I've got 2 weeks before the final. So I created what eventually became known as the memory supercharger protocol. I gave it to him. He did so well on the final. He got such a high A on the final that he ended up with a B for the semester. And I want you to understand that the information is within you, and it's the relationship that you have with your inner mind that you make a request, you patiently let it go and let it come. I had a funny story. I was traveling in Japan. I was going. I was in different time zone, right? And when I was there, I was teaching all kinds of programs, late at night for dinner, early morning for meetings. I was on radio and TV and, just endless, it seemed. And we were in a cab going to one of the events, and we passed a machine, and they have vending machines everywhere, and they have hot coffee and vending machines, cans of hot coffee. I thought, that's really cool. And there was a guy from Men in Black, one of the characters, and it wasn't Will Smith. I said, oh, that's a guy from Men in Black. Look, he's right there on the sign. God, what's his name? I know the guy's name. It's so weird. No kidding. Wasn't available. My wife smiled and she said, well, yeah, you'll get it. I said, I know, I'll get it. So every couple of days she'd say, did you remember the name of the guy from Men in Black? I go, it's Johnny Ray something. Oh, no. No, I don't have it yet. Well, it'll come to you. So we kept playing this game. I didn't get it on the way back from the trip. And we were watching a movie about a week later, and that character was in it. And I said, I'm going to remember this guy's name. It's going to come to me. And about 30 seconds before the name on the credits came, I said, Tommy Lee Jones. why? Why? It doesn't matter. But if it's funny, then you realize you can play with it. And so play the game. Another fun example that my wife and I do, we get in the car, we start driving away from the house, and one of us will say, oh, I forgot such and such. And the other will say, that's called remembering. We just happen to remember a little late. So we develop memory strategies before we leave. Instead of saying, is there anything I'm forgetting? We ask, is there anything else I need to remember to bring on this trip? So you see, you start to develop a much more positive working relationship with this fantastic memory bank that you have within you. I've taken a lot of your time this morning, a lot of fun, big topic. I love this Paraliminal, use it a lot, keep growing. Oh, one more thing. You know the senior moment idea? Now neurological research has really debunked the idea of a senior moment. Think about the memory web being so full with so much valuable information that things that are of less relevance are so buried under so many layers. You just need to take a little time to part and ask your mind to please drill down and pull out that bit of information. So senior moment isn't about a memory failure. It's about a conservancy of energy that allows your brain to just keep at the forefront those things that are most important to you. So, promise, no more negative suggestions about this fantastic brain mind that you have. Be good to yourself. Listen to Paraliminals. Have a spectacular day. Peace and blessings. Thanks so much for being a part of this.